Welcome everybody. This is very much an informal gathering celebrating Stewart Scott. And these are all friends of Stewart Scott that are going to be here, and we're going to be hearing from everybody. So I'm not intending to do an introduction of Stewart, because we're going to hear a lot of introductions as we go around. So I think we'll now move straight into a short film before we have everybody saying what they'd like to in his memory.
So, Stewart Scott is another man that's also part of the foundation board, together with Greta Thunberg. And with us, luckily, we have Stewart Scott. Give him a word hand.
Thank you. My main focus is trying to save some semblance of a future for my kids and the kids who are represented by the people sitting here in this audience and people out there watching us.
Wonderful. Well, you have a presentation for us, so
yes.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I always start my presentation here. This is where it starts and ends, our only home. This photograph, the last taken from Apollo 17 mission, is said to be the most published photograph in the history of humanity. If you had the globe the size of a basketball in your hand, the atmosphere would be a coat of paint, hardly visible. So the scientists' warning to humanity started in 1992, the same year as the Rio summit. And there it is. It was published by the Union of Concerned Scientists, an advocacy group out of Washington, D.C., very well-respected scientific advocacy group. The first sentence says it all. Human beings and the natural world are on a collision course. Human activities inflict harsh and often irreversible damage on the environment. A great change in our stewardship of the earth and the life on it is required if vast human misery is to be avoided and our global home on this planet is not to be irretrievably mutilated. I don't know how more visceral you can get. I say get angry, get very angry, but not just getting angry, do something about it, take action. The bottom line is we must all become active immediately to avert a catastrophe for us, for our children, and for all life on Earth.
I've continually been on the lookout for leading edge things, leading edge in terms of the signs of urgency, because one of the problems that I see in our societal inability to deal with this urgent situation is that it's being formulated in the human imagination as a far-off problem, far off in space and time. You talked about carbon budget. There is a lot of bullshit going on out there that we still have a carbon budget. Not. We have already spent our carbon budget. But the politicians have this, they have this routine down of kicking the can down the road, and they do that by this notion of a carbon budget. We have no more carbon budget. I want to dispense with that illusion. We are borrowing from future generations at this point. We are making their lives much more difficult.
We have to bring to people the commitment, the conviction that things are not as they should be. They need to change. And by golly, I'm going to change them. I'm going to help change them. You know, you have to rise out of your seat and you have to promote yourself to the level that you're capable of in terms of creating change. Those that misinform us say that it's okay, or they pretend that it's okay. That is what I call the defective mainstream narrative. And if there's anything that we are about at Facing Future, it's an accurate, to the extent that we are able, an accurate alternative narrative to the garbage that's being handed out by nations, corporations, banks, and yes, the United Nations.
My skills and my internal image of being a warrior always bring me back to the point of that hope and action are the same. And so I rise from the ashes continually on a daily basis sometimes and decide that I'm going to do something about this.
We need to wake up, folks. We need to get with it and realize that it is each of our responsibility to take care of one another, to take care of the planet as though it were a warm, living being, because that's what it is.
And now we have one video message that was sent in as well.
I met Stewart in person shortly before COP24 when he gave a talk to the Reading Group of Population Matters. His talent as a communicator was evident. He really understood the root causes of so many existential problems, and his memory inspires me to work towards a better future.
And now, as we remember Stewart, I'd like to ask Cynthia to talk first, and then we'll go around the room. So please, Cynthia. And please, everybody, introduce yourselves as we're going around.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Riddle with Facing Future, here with a number of my teammates from several continents, so pleased to be up here. Stewart Scott. Probably it won't surprise you to know a few things about Stewart that I didn't know for a long time. Did you know that he was a magician? Did you know that he was a fencing champion at Columbia University when he was a freshman? Did you know that he was a minstrel and a performance artist? After he graduated with a degree from Columbia, he put his very expensive Ivy League education to great use, going around the country in a hippie van with these long, multicolored plastic tubes that he would swirl around his head because they would come up with different tonalities. And he attracted large groups of people who would come around him. He'd do this in New York City, in the middle of the city, and people would just aggregate to see what he was doing. He liked being the center of attention. He liked making magic. Stewart became the first ecological stockbroker on Wall Street. He did that career very successfully for a number of years until 2007. At heart, he was always an ecologically minded person. In 2007, he discovered Al Gore and his climate reality training. Stewart insisted on going there. Even if before he had been accepted, he knew that was his destiny. A number of years later, I met up with Stewart for a second time. This time was in a meditation retreat. What we didn't know was that the coda of this meditation retreat would be talking about the 4 dangers to humanity. There were 4 at that time when they had been first written, having to deal with overpopulation, pollution, mismanagement of natural resources, and the dangers of nuclear energy. At the end of this training, a number of us were so inspired, we came together to step up with Stewart to do work that he had been doing for a couple of decades. And as we joined forces with Stewart, we connected with all kinds of amazing scientists and activists who are here in the room, and many others, people of faith. Stewart was always a person wanting to blend faith and science together. He had started an organization some time ago called United Planet Faith and Science, where he brought together amazing people like the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu to sign on to be his advisors. He kept his deep passion. He was inspired by St. Francis and had mystical experience around that. Stewart was also, he was so brilliant that he ended up forming a number of different organizations and started a television station on YouTube to get the message out with notable scientists, some of whom are in this room, who have helped us reach over 2 million views on YouTube in the last few years that we've been doing it. Stewart, the two things that Stewart was most proud of, his accomplishments, were, number one, introducing Greta Thunberg to the United Nations at the COP24 in Katowice, Poland. Greta, who was just 15 at the time, and it launched her career. The other thing that he was most passionate about was his entree to the Vatican, to Pope Francis, to Cardinal Turkson, to Father Jostrom, who has graced our audience with his presence as a representative of the Vatican, and has been a conduit for some of the forward-thinking ideas of ecological economics, which we are so happy to see included in Laudato Si and the revolutionary and groundbreaking work of the Vatican, moving collectively all people toward a sustainable future. I want to just say one more thing about Stewart. We all know that he had a very challenging exit strategy. And a number of us, you know, it was like being on the relay race where you're at a relay team and someone's got the baton and you have to get up to speed to take the baton so the first person can slow down and keep going. So all of us have been that second leg of the relay team, running as quickly as we could to get up to speed with Stewart so that we could learn from him, we could figure out who else we needed to talk to, we could make friends and professional associations with his vast numbers of people and carry on the work. So we're still running. We've mostly caught up with him, and in good part to the collegiality of all the people who are here and all the people who have helped us in the last year or two. Thank you all for being here to celebrate Stewart.
Thank you very, very much, Cynthia. And now I think all of us will, apart from echoing that, we have to realize that we have a very short amount of time. So about 30 seconds for everybody in order for us to get everybody in. Thank you.
My name is Kathy Orlando. I sat on the board of We Don't Have Time with Stewart. I've known Stewart since 2009. As a person with deep passions and deep fear and deep anger for what is happening to our planet and possibly to our children's future, Stewart was a role model for me. For those of you who are afraid of your anger and what it will do to you, it's actually healthy. Keeping it in is going to make you turmoiled. The people who are activists, who are angry, are the ones who will do the best. We will get through this. So Stewart taught me to harness my anger, and I hope you all do too, because anger is a manifestation of fear, and fear comes from love. Thank you.
Dale.
Okay, guess we're standing. I'm Dale Walkinen. I was Stewart's co-host for the last year as his strength was kind of waning. When he was not able to read books, I read them, I made the questions, we went on air as best we could, as he would be unable to really finish his conversation. Conversation was Stewart's genius. It was conversing, getting together, flowing together, not an interview, a conversation with equals. And all the people here are people that he inspired, me, everyone on this panel, to do climate work. I won't say a lot because there are so many people, and I just want to appreciate that we are a fantastic group of people. We are several teams that he created. When a person is so ill and they create a new TV channel and a new website, This is an extraordinary human being, and Stewart was a great friend to us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Ryan.
All right, thank you so much for that, Dale. My name is Raya Salter. I'm a host with Facing Future. I'm a climate lawyer and activist. I first met Stewart when I was living in Hawaii, and he was very kind, welcoming, and excited about the projects on his beautiful property. I was thrilled to join his team at Facing Future just this year, sadly too soon before his passing, but I remain inspired by his unwavering commitment to urgent climate communications, education, and advocacy. And I'm working to follow in his footsteps. And I also thank him for being a role model. And I've been very moved by the passion with which his friends and colleagues have worked to continue his legacy. So thank you, Stewart, and thank you to you all.
Dan.
My name is Dan Galpern, and I'm the Director of Climate Protection and Restoration Initiative. I am also the attorney for the climate scientist James Hansen. And it is in that latter capacity that I first met Stewart, and I've been working with Stewart until his death over the last 5 years. And in our last conversation, we talked about a number of things, including what more small island states might do, what more the Vatican might do, and then one of our major initiatives, a Climate Protection and Restoration Initiative. And when I described it, he immediately signed on to our petition right then and there during the conversation, and that is to impose a rising carbon fee on oil, gas, and coal. Probably was one of his last significant political acts. I feel a void here at this COP, not working directly with Stewart, but his memory and inspiration stays with us. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dan. Could we get the roving mic, please, to Jimmy at the front? And then if we go Jimmy behind you, to Paul, and then back, and we'll zigzag, please. So to Charles next.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Jimmy Yang from Buddhist Tiji Foundation. Yeah, so I knew Stewart ever since COP20 in Peru, when he came out with the Declaration on Climate Change with the United Planet Faith and Science Initiative. And from the moment I met him, I knew immediately his passion, his conviction on this issue. He didn't really represent any organizations or any agenda. He just represented himself. And he came on his own money. He did all his programs by himself. So, and that really inspired me. And I made it a point every year, that every opportunity that I can to help him with this program. Thank you.
Charles?
I met Stewart in 2018. He was a voice crying in the wilderness, and I heard his message, and I found a way to help him. And I really appreciate the chance he gave me to help him, because I've learned a lot as a result. Stewart is a master presenter. He has a knowledge of the psychology of presenting things to people in an effective way. Some of that is, I picked up on some of that, not all of it. He's a brilliant presenter. And so, anyways, very sorry to lose him. Yes.
And then to the front, Heidi, please.
Hi, I'm Heidi Bro, and I first met Stewart about 3 years ago, and signed on to do one bit of work, ended up doing 100 different things. And I'm very grateful to Stewart. He's literally changed my life and my husband's life. We became very, very involved with climate work. I'm very proud to be part of the legacy. And he asked me to help facilitate the team's participation in this COP, and I'm really proud that the team made it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. And then Paul. And Paul, the camera is this way, so everybody that way if you're
Yes, Paul Beckwith. Stewart, I got an email out of the blue in 2014 saying, hey, why don't you come to the COP? I'll cover you with air miles. And he had many, many air miles. And I started at that COP talking about methane emergency in the Arctic. And I've continued on to many COPs since. And yeah, he was a great mentor and will be missed.
Great. Thank you.
Carlin. I'm writing for Center for Media and Democracy, but I was honored to share a podium in Madrid last COP. Stewart and I just want to explain how that happened. I met him at the Greta COP, in Poland, and we got to know each other. And I said, "Hey, Stewart, there's this guy, Russ George's Ocean Pasture Restoration," and he didn't take him long, and he just said, "Wait a minute, I'm behind this thing. It's win-win-win." He just got so involved, heart and soul, into this project that a lot of people, don't get for quite a while. He immediately just fully understood it in such a deep way, and he made that. When we prepared for that panel, he had rented a house in Madrid, and we would go over there. I mean, this is like midnight, burning the midnight oil. It was like to 1, 2 in the morning. He's sitting there, "I have cancer, but let's work," I mean, he was just unbelievable inspiration on that kind of a level. And just want to say one other thing. I've been working on this kind of difficult project that somebody who I really respected but just didn't feel like she was an expert in that area, and she was really resistant to this thing. And then she just wrote me and said, "You didn't tell me that Stewart Scott really was behind this, really supported this thing." That completely opened her mind to something that she was closed-minded about. It was just that, I think, says a lot. That's what I want to say.
And then, Father.
So very happy to represent Pope Francis and the Vatican, because Stewart came to the Vatican 5 years ago asking to work in the Vatican. We said, "You're too, we usually take young people." But then seeing his passion, we agreed to work together. And 2 things I remember of Stewart. First is his resilience. He never gave up. I think that's what we need today. We need to be resilient like Stewart. The second thing is his passion to work together. We need to create partnerships. And so we would like to maybe dedicate to Stewart, to his memory, the 7-year Laudato Si action plan. We are not waiting for 2050. We're not waiting for 2030. We are asking our communities, parishes, schools, universities, and many are joining, in 7 years become sustainable. And we would like to dedicate the Laudato Si action platform to the memory of Stewart.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you, Father. Peter?
Peter Woodhams. Well, I think I've never met anybody as totally devoted as Stewart was to the cause of saving the human race. I mean, people would talk about saving the planet, but he would always object when he said that. He said, "It's forget the planet, it's the human race that's important." And well, I can't remember when we met him originally, but before we knew where we were at COP meetings with him at Marrakesh and in Madrid. And his spirit lives on. It's very difficult to imagine him gone because he feels present in everything we're doing. So,
okay. Thank you, Peter. Here.
I'm Maria Pia Casarini. Maria Pia Casarini from Milan and Cambridge, and first met Stewart in 2016. Peter doesn't remember, but it was 2016. And we were invited to Marrakesh with him, and he gave me the opportunity to talk about polar education and the Polar Institute and all the importance of the polar regions. And I can only say Stewart has given voice to us all. Now we have to give him back his voice with his legacy. Thank you.
And Brian.
Ryan Wright. I was involved in the same school of philosophy and meditation as Stewart from the early 70s. So we had a lot of that background together. It was also a school which expected to come to the point that we're at now, when the whole future of the human race would be in question. But Stewart really got into action at a point much before I was stirred to action. And I really appreciate that he persevered and almost as a one-man band got so many things started in action. Very inspiring, and it inspired me to join Facing Future and to combine what we've been producing a foundation for into real action, which I'm really appreciating at this COP.
Thank you, Brian. And we're just about at the end now, and I'll only just say a few seconds because it's all been said. I'm very late to the party compared to almost all of you who met Stewart in person. I've only ever met him online. So, and he was, when I had my ecological conversion in 2019, one of the first videos I saw after it was actually Stewart with Victoria Hurt talking through, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing when they were talking about it, and that got me to do a vast amount of further research. And now I'm extremely proud that with some of my other colleagues who've mainly met him online, although a few back in the UK, have met him in person, that we're continuing with Scientists Warning Europe, very much in the tradition of Stewart when he started. And we're going to speak truth to power, and we're going to do it here at this COP26 as well. So thank you ever so much, everybody, again, for all the wonderful things. And let's have it. Please, everybody be upstanding. Let's clap for Stewart as we go out.